YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Today I'm ranking the edge rushers of the 2023 NFL Draft. I definitely have some different opinions than most out there. I think it's a pretty deep class. Maybe some of the guys at the top are being overhyped just a little bit here. So excited to break it down. There are some tweener players, many that I actually have with the interior defensive linemen, and that'll be the next rankings video. We had to play those full of these rankings. We also have plenty of mock drafts and NFL draft content. More to come. We're getting close to the NFL draft. We'll be live during day 1 right here. Day 2 and 3 with instant analysis on each pick on our Twitter. Very important to follow our Twitter. You get bonus content if you're a subscriber on Twitter. Links pinned in the comments for that, and our sponsors, which you see below me, and our Discord. Not a surprise at number 1, I have Will Anderson. What I'm surprised about is there are some people out there that it's out of nowhere, like all of a sudden that don't have Anderson at the top, maybe saying he's overhyped a little bit. I don't understand those takes. I think this is your clear-cut top pass rusher, and maybe there's just too much time for those people like covering the draft until the draft actually happens. They're kind of getting a little bored. I don't know, because I don't know what you're seeing if you don't have Anderson at the top here. Just super explosive. I mean, he plays the game faster than everyone else from what I see. The get off is incredible. To me, get off is, off the snap, off the ball is just extremely important when it comes to an edge rusher. Scheme versatile. He'll fit a 3-4 or 4-3. Not the biggest dude in the world, but he's not really small either. Good power, strength, but he can fit either. You see him on the line, hand in the dirt, and you see him standing up off the edge as well. You can mix it up with him, or either or makes sense. I don't feel necessarily, better, if he goes to a certain scheme. I think he's going to be a fantastic player, pass rusher, no matter the scheme. He has that impact and production. He has that production you're looking for across his career. I mean, 2 years ago was insane production, but he has the impact too. Like when you need him to show up most, like in the big time moments, he does. So I love that, obviously, when it comes to these players that can make a difference here, showing up in the big time moment. And he can win in many different ways, which I can't really say. That's probably the underwhelming part about this class when it comes to the edge rushers is there's some good ball players, but do they have like a collection of moves, or can they do, a bit of everything? Will Anderson can win with speed, with power, with different moves. He's not just good against the pass. He could stop the run as well, which kind of goes into the negative a little bit. He has missed some tackles, or maybe I don't want to say struggled, but could finish a little bit better. And then really like a top tier battle against Darnell Wright. Darnell Wright definitely won that battle. Like usually you do see the better player win that battle. Like you'll see offensive linemen, like they were great until they played this big time pass rusher, and then they weren't, but it kind of makes sense because he's going to be a top pick. But Will Anderson definitely got outplayed in that matchup and was penalized a bit this past season. But there really isn't crazy negatives there. I just love the play speed, the explosiveness, the impact that he is and can be. So I think it's a no-brainer. Elite prospect, top pass rusher of this class. You don't have to think much about it. Some people are thinking a little too much, I think, if they don't have him at the top. Number 2, where I might surprise a little bit, I have Myles Murphy at number 2. I think he's going to be a phenomenal pro player, and I have just the top 10, like inside of a top 10 grade on him, and he could go a little bit after. Outside the top 10 is a possibility. Some people are mocking him right around there. Some people maybe in the middle of the first. He should go earlier than middle of the first, but we'll see. Like the size, 6'4", 268. Yeah, if you combine the athleticism, the size, and power, just the build, when I talk about size with the length as well, it's pretty damn rare. It's good to see, the combination of all that. And he uses his length and power very well. Rushing, a lot of bull rushing, using that power, but using that length to separate as well and drive his man back and collapse the pocket, get pressure, sometimes get the sack. But he didn't get a whole bunch of sacks. So maybe what people are worried about a little bit, but he collapsed the pocket a bit with his length, using his length and power especially. Love the get off. He explodes off the ball. That's very important to me. So absolutely love that from him. So that's, a starting point. You don't want to have to coach something like that. Very impressive versus the run. Instinctive, can read the run. Not going to get juked out. He's going to square up, make the tackle, very physical as well. High motor, always, trying to chase somebody down across the field, getting on those angles. I see big upside too because, this guy, 21 years old, really good size, athleticism profile, already knows how to use some things that you don't want to have to coach. Where he needs to be coached up is kind of adding more to his game, adding more of the pass rush moves, more of a plan. We'll talk about that as a negative, but I think a good coach can go in there, and that good coach or good coaches, good staff could help him with that. Other players, see other players all the time helping with players, adding moves to their game, tweaking their footwork a little bit. So I think if he adds that, he actually has a shot to be maybe an elite NFL player even, because that's really what he's missing. He just adds that. It's going to add more sacks. And I think he could be more productive in the NFL as well. A lot of teams, especially in college football, they're just getting the ball out so quick, especially against that Clemson defensive line, real quick dump offs against them. So more time to get after the quarterback could help him. So I just really like him as just a natural edge rusher here. The power really stands out too, and then the athleticism on top of that power and size. So love the get off as well, like I said. But yeah, is lacking a variety of pass rush moves. A lot of the time it's bull rush. I'm gonna move myself here. Hold the phone. And there we go. So I'm not blocking everything. A lot of time it's just a bull rush. He's pretty damn good at it. But if you can add something more of a plan, get a little bit more of an outside move, a little bit more of an inside move. Can we add a spin move to it? Then he could be special. And he didn't have the high end production you look for like a top 10 guy. But I see upside. I see upside and more production in the NFL. And some 3-4 teams may not be interested. I think he has it in him because of his athleticism, but seems like a hand in the dirt, on a line of scrimmage type guy. So why pass on him? Maybe some 3-4 teams just be like, yeah, I like this guy better over here because he fits our scheme a little bit more. So not really a huge negative there, but I am a fan of Myles Murphy, and I'm probably higher on him than most people. Love the upside, but I think he can make an impact right away. A tricky prospect at number 3 in Tyree Wilson, the edge rusher from Texas Tech, who has some incredible size, elite length and power combination. And I'll put a top 10 grade on him. He is tricky, though. And he's not tricky to evaluate. Like, I know what's going on when watching him. Like, I understand completely, and we're going to talk about, what type of prospect he is. But he's tricky to grade in rank because if you're talking, like, purely an edge rusher, just rushing off the edge and then maybe some run-stopping ability off the edge, what's most important, rushing off the edge, I think there are definitely better guys. There are better guys that I have ranked probably lower, just a pure edge rusher outside of the tackle, but when you factor in, other things like versatility, if he can play in multiple spots, he could be great if he does that. And he has a lot of upside in that category, especially with the length and power. And he's a pretty good athlete for that. Then he can be an elite player. So it's almost like he's either going to be, he's probably not going to be a top 10 player at the end of the day. He's either going to be an elite player or he's going to be underwhelming. And that underwhelming can mean a lot of different things. So he's a little tricky, but we talk about elite power and length and uses it very well. Sometimes the sacks he gets with just his length, like other guys wouldn't get that. Like because of his length, he got that sack, and or he makes a diving run, stop, tackle. Things he does because of that length. And there's a lot of guys that have length but don't know how to use it. He uses it very well. Great run defender. You're going to get run stop help, run defense help, with him at the edge position or wherever you put him. He's well disciplined, and what I mean by that is, staying home, not, going full motor, full speed at a guy and then getting juked out. He's really good at mirroring ball carriers, really. And he's not going to get fooled by misdirection. You saw, especially in college, you see a lot of the read options, things like that. He's not going to get fooled with who's got the ball, who doesn't have the ball. He's going to read the run correctly. He's going to read the play correctly. So that's what I mean by well-disciplined football player there. I think he could be elite if he's used as a versatile defender, and that's where he's tricky too. There's a lot of people that have elite grade on him, and it's tough for me because I'm not quite there because we're talking about edge rushers when we're ranking, and I think a guy like Myles Murphy, I like him better outside the tackle. I like him in the NFL better as an edge guy. I just purely as a pass rushing edge guy. The get off's a big thing, but some other things factor in that as well. And I think Tyree Wilson actually is a good player, but he's actually a little underwhelming in that category. But he has a lot of upside inside. And he did play a little bit on the inside, but because he has the power to play inside and he has that length to make himself a mismatch, and he has that run defense ability to be able to play on the inside. So the power and ability to play the run means he can play on the inside. And then, just freakish ability, that length, the athleticism, a smart player, well-disciplined, makes him a mismatch on the inside, factoring in these other things. So he will be a mismatch on the inside, like we just said. So if you use him all over the place, because there's players like that in the NFL. Like if they played one position, would they be known as good as they are? So there's quite a few of them. I guess there's not a long list, but more and more each year there's those players. And like those players, like maybe they're considered elite because they play multiple positions. Would they be elite if they only played one position, even if it's the position they are best at? Probably not. I think Tyree Wilson is in that category. I think you have to use him inside. I like him as maybe like an Ark Armstead type player who's like a defensive end / defensive tackle. I mean, playing three techniques sometimes, playing outside the tackle sometimes, over the tackle sometimes. I think that's it, and he has the crazy length too. Armstead's like 6'7", though. He's a little longer, but Tyree Wilson has the arm length, though, to match that. I think that's the type of player he is, where you move him around a bit, throw teams off, because what is this guy doing? Because he can come from anywhere. He can slide in, slide out, and then let him go to work because he can play both. Like it's an elite. It's hard to say elite versatility because, I mean, Texas Tech did use him inside. I wish they would have used him inside more. There was a little bit of a balance. I think there needs to be more of a balance in the NFL. So if it's going to depend on that's why he's so tough to rank and grade. I got the evaluation here. This is what he is. But who's going to? If there's going to be teams out there, they'll draft him like, hey, we need an edge rusher. We got D tackles. We don't really need you to play inside. We're going to stick you off the edge. You're going to go to work off the edge a bit. I don't think he'll be an elite player that way, or a top 10 player. If you're using him, both ways, inside, outside as a weapon, he's going to be a hell of a football player. He's going to be a hell of a football player, maybe the best from this class if you use him that way. But why pass him? Yeah, he's lacking that get off, which is big for me. He is slow off the ball. A lot of the times Texas Tech had him kind of sitting and reading, or maybe he was, he had stop the run number one on his mind. Maybe that is why, and that is a legitimate excuse. Maybe Texas Tech had him stopping it, sitting and reading a little bit. Legitimate excuse, but it's almost every single snap. Like, I don't know if I'm finding a snap where he explodes off the ball. And there's times where he is a lot of times, he is the very last one off the ball, talking about defensive lineman, offensive lineman. So that's tough for me because get off is huge when it comes to edge rushers. Huge. It's not really something that changes much from college to the NFL. NFL teams don't really want to bring you in there and coach that up. Is it something you can coach at that stage? You can argue that you can't really, or it's rare. I mean, look at the best pass rushers in football. Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Micah Parsons. These guys explode off. I just listed some. These guys explode off the ball. And that is step one, why it's very difficult for a tackle to handle those guys. You block those guys. So that is very tough for me. So I don't love that off the edge. You can get away with it in the run game when he's really, really good at stopping the run. Or on the inside, he can get away with it. Defensive line play style to me, which we kind of summed up already to me, is like he plays like a interior defensive lineman in an edge rusher's body, even though he has some size to him. So I don't think he could be used off the edge. I think we kind of said this already. If you use him just off the edge, I don't think he's going to be as good as he can be. There's other players like Will Anderson. If you're using them both, like he's not going to be as good as you can be. Like he's just purely an edge rusher. To me, Wilson, I think the play style, what type of player he is, you got to move him around a bit. You got to create mismatches and then let him use, because that's why he's good, because he's got a lot of strengths across the board. That's why you can definitely people fall in love with him. But boomer or bust type guy for me. And then 2022 foot injury, which required a pin being put in his foot, and we didn't really get to see him at all in the pre-draft process. So that's pretty tough as well. People people take that stuff seriously. Guys could hurt or help their stock by that. So what about a guy that it's a little bit of a mystery maybe? So could he start to drop because of that? Very interesting. I might surprise some people a little more here. At 4, I have Will McDonald. And after the top 3, a lot of these guys are even, like 4 through 10. They are pretty damn close to even. But I am a fan of Will McDonald, the edge rusher from Iowa State. He is about to be 24, actually. He's 23 right now as I'm talking. He's actually close to being 24. So that is a little tough. But I love his game. Round 1 guys got elite length. He's 6'3", not super tall, but he's got elite length and flexibility as well. The ability to maneuver around, bend around guys, whether it's in the inside or the outside. Very impressive. The I take the 3-cone drill very seriously. And at his pro day, it was ridiculous, like elite numbers. And it's something you should take seriously when it comes to pass rushers going in the NFL. He's a great athlete. We see the athleticism, we see the speed, we see the explosiveness, we see the speed rushes. But yeah, the explosiveness, I think we saw it like the vertical, things like that as well. A collection of rush moves, and he kind of had to have that too. And something that's kind of listed under the negatives that's almost a positive is played out of position. I guess why it's a negative is, he played out of position, so you're going to play him in the right position in the NFL, but how will he be kind of playing in that role he didn't play a whole lot, he played a little bit of, and then not playing the other roles? Like, how is he going to be? So I guess it's a little bit of a question, but, he's a guy that, Iowa State had a 3-man rush for the most part, so he hand in the dirt on the line, a lot of the time lined up over the tackle, quite a bit of the time lined up a hair inside the tackle, and he had moments outside the tackle as well. So he kind of had to have different parts to his game, and I actually love that too. Where he had most of his production, most of his flashes, rushing the passer, he was standing up off the edge, which was actually kind of limited because Iowa State had a 3-man front, all the guys hand in the dirt for the most part, 3-man rush. So it was difficult to have him do that a lot. But that, 6'3", 239, speedy, athletic, he's a stand-up guy, and that's where he flashed. So if an NFL team, and that's why I say upside too, if an NFL team that runs a 3-4 grabs him and stands him up off the edge, more reps off the edge, and let him do his thing, he's going to be pretty damn good. He's going to be pretty damn productive. And then kind of going back, the guys that played out of position, it's like they weren't productive because they played out of position. Just wait till they get in, in the right position. He was super, super productive throughout his career, sort of playing out of position, but I say out of position a lot, but he was good in where he played. So maybe he can just play all these, different alignments. Maybe he's just that versatile. And I've actually seen him as an off-ball guy a few times and dropping in coverage. So that kind of goes into versatile as well. Speedy get off. We talking about he's productive. I think he plays bigger than his size. You think 239 is probably too light. He's in the same range as Nolan Smith. I think Will McDonald, I guess you could debate this. Nolan Smith in the run game plays bigger than his size. Will McDonald, I say, in the pass game plays bigger than his size. But, he's had to, again, line up inside the tackle sometimes. So he's got the experience being a power guy, even though he's not first a power guy. So I love that. I love that about him. So I think this is a solid pass rusher with some upside in the right spot. Not a lot of talk, some talk in the first round. I got a first round grade on him. Negatives, thin frame on the older side. Like we say, he's going to turn 24, so that's tough. But I think he's a plug and play type guy. He's a little inconsistent against the run, like sometimes good, sometimes bad. Maybe getting off the blocks could be a little bit better. Most 4-3 teams will pass because they don't think they want him, even though he's got some experience. Hand in the dirt, over the tackle. They probably will pass because he's thin and then did play out of position. So you're not really gonna switch his position though, because when his best ball I thought was standing up outside the tackle where he'll play in the NFL. So I like Will McDonald. I think he's gonna be a productive guy in the NFL. A 3-4 team's gonna take him. They're gonna stand him up, and the insurance that you could line him up multiple spots because he did it at Iowa State, multiple alignments. Over the tackle, inside the tackle, make teams feel a little bit good about taking them. Number 5, I actually got B.J. Ojulari, who's a big riser for me as I watch more and more of the tape. It's tough with the grade on him. I'd be okay with the late 1, more likely to go 2. But yeah, that's kind of where his range is at. The LSU pass rush. Yeah, the more I already knew a negative about him, and maybe why I didn't really love him at first, is sometimes he does really struggle to get off blocks. Like when a tackle, mainly in the run game, but when the tackles got him like locked up, like he's just not getting off, and that's pretty tough because some of the best pass rushers in the NFL they don't really have that problem at all. So there is a negative, and that's a pretty big negative to me. But I can't get over the more and more I watch his pass rush snaps. I mean, that bend and dip on the outside is unblockable. It's just so natural, so quick. How he just the flexibility, but then dipping under the outside arm, I guess we'll say, of the body of the offensive tackle and just getting to the quarterback. It's fun to watch. It's Harold Landry, like I talked about on Twitter the other day. Harold Landry, he was a top 10 player of mine in that NFL draft, the draft that he was in out of Boston College. Top 10 player. I was mind blown, and a big reason was because he was productive, he was talented, but that outside bend is there's not too many like it in the NFL. So I was surprised when he went in second round, and he ended up being a big time player there. So Harold Landry is a better prospect to me, more complete than B.J. Ojulari, but I'm not a big comparison guy. If you've been following us for a long time, I like to force. I think people force comparisons. It's just got to come natural, and that is one I really like because some similarities what they do and similar builds, length. Ojulari 6'2" is on the short side, but his length makes up for it. But he wins with strides too. I mean, the strides, he's so fun to watch. Like the bend, the dip, the ghost move, the strides, how smooth he is. It's fun. It's fun to watch him in action as a pass rusher. It's difficult for tackles to block him because what he can do. Very solid get off, which is important to me. Like I said, great character, which I haven't had a chance to talk to him, but I just keep hearing that from coaches. I've read quotes from scouts and NFL people that have actually said that. He was voted a team captain as well. So it sounds like he's got a really good character, which is pretty big. Can drop in coverage. LSU had him drop a bit, and I thought he looked pretty solid doing that. High motor guy, going to try to track guys down across the field. And he's young. He's 21. We talked about some other 21-year-old. Those guys are like about to turn 22. He's kind of he just turned 21 basically. So he's on the younger side. So there's some things that you actually could, he's got a little more upside, maybe more room to develop. So I think that's a good thing. Really does struggle to get off blocks. That's a tough part. If it wasn't for that, and we'd be talking about a possible elite top 10 maybe guy, because it is a big thing. Like sometimes, when he's locked in, when the tackle has him, he's really struggles to get off. Now, there actually is a little bit more college holding allowed, believe it or not, even though they're allowing more and more in the NFL, probably to protect quarterbacks. But yeah, those college reps, especially when you're talking about SEC, when LSU's playing the Alabamas, the Georgias, maybe the Tennessees, teams like that, and then LSU themselves, they're going to get away with some holding. Same thing goes with like the Big Ten SEC. It just seems like a thing there. But it is tough sometimes where he struggles to get off blocks. And that's kind of a big thing. Cause that's something I remembered for during the season. Like that's something I knew right away. And then like the mock drafts before I got to the film, it's like people were like, "Where's B.J. Ojulari?" And I'm, in my head, I'm like, he's still trying to get off the block. Is kind of what I wanted to say. But he's a natural, smooth, fun to watch pass rusher with some upside. The 3-cone time drill, from his pro day was like 7.5, 7.5s. Is so confusing. And it's a number, it's a drill, it's a test that I take seriously and other people take seriously because what it's meant to the end, like to pass rushers in the NFL. But guys that are pretty explosive, athletic, quick, especially guys with the flexibility, like the bend, like he's got the best bend in the class on the outside. Usually those guys have the guys with the crazy 3-cone times, and he had a very poor 3-cone drill, and that is more confusing than anything. But and I know his RAS score was low because of it, but he never ran his 40. So even if we give him a 40 that's probably slower than, like, even if we give him like close to a 4.8, which he's going to run faster than that, or like 4.75, the RAS score would look a lot better. And so it's not something I'm, worrying about, a whole lot. He's more athletic than that score will tell us, which usually I do like, though. I do trust those scores, but, and they kind of goes without saying, like if they don't have the 40-yard dash, you can't like fully invest in that. Some may consider undersizing because of the height, but he has the length to make up for it. Likely a stand-up rusher only. Like, he's physical, I guess hand in the dirt on the line, can help him stay even lower because he's really good at dipping and getting lower. Nah, but I like him starting from standing up, though. He's more likely to go to the team that's going to take him is going to have him standing up. They're going to have him standing up. There are some 4-3 teams that will, have a guy stand up on one side, actually. That's possible as well. So I'm a BJ Ojulari is a big riser for me, just because something that's just kind of just sticking in my head is how smooth he is as a rusher. The strides, the outside moves, the dip. It's the flexibility out there. It's natural too. Like, he doesn't really have to think about doing it. Like, he kind of just does it. And he's got a lot of upside here, being one of the younger guys, slightly being one of the younger guys. So yeah, I might be surprising a lot of people with a lot of these here. Van Ness, I'm just not as high on as everyone else is. I see the upside. I see what people like. He's very explosive, getting off the ball like a high motor. Sometimes looks like he got shot out of a cannon. Love that. Got the ideal build. Versatile because he can play off the edge. He can play inside. He'd had some pretty good play on the inside, which almost is a negative, somewhat, not that exactly. We'll get to it. But yeah, high motor guy. You see the upside too, more because he didn't start, which is a negative, but somewhat of a negative, but more starts, more reps, could get more out of him. He's kind of your ideal type pass rusher, But yeah, it didn't start. And to me, I know Iowa rewards seniors. But, you think if a guy was like that good, that much better, and you're playing Big Ten football, you're trying to get back to the Big Ten championship game this past year, you think you would start the guy. So, and he does kind of disappear sometimes, in the inconsistency. Like, he'll have flash, like, what? Who is that guy? Like, wow, that's an elite player right there. And then all of a sudden he's disappeared for quite a bit. Or, he didn't start, or he's off the field for a bit. There was one game, Michigan game, he was off the field for a portion. I watched every snap of that game, like, multiple times. Off the field for a portion, I noticed, and I didn't love that. But, best play to me, like, his best play came from, you see the upside on the outside, and that's where he'll make his money. But his best play, like his flashy plays, probably actually, I guess it's debatable, but probably came from the inside, just being so much faster and lengthier than guards. But I just don't see him like Tyree Wilson, where Tyree Wilson has plenty of power and stupid length, and just so good against the run that he'll be very good inside. I just don't, like, Van Ness won't be bad inside. I just don't see him having nearly the same success inside that he did in college. So he's purely an edge guy. So to me, it's another boom or bust type guy. Is there enough there for me to take him where some people are talking about like top 10? I don't know if he go, I think teams will kind of see what I'm seeing. Maybe I don't think he'll go top 10. Not a whole lot of people, and there are some people mocking him top 10, like right around the Falcons range. Middle of the first I'm more of a late first, even early second guy. I think somebody takes a shot at him because of his upside. He's kind of the ideal, like, the look of him, if you know what I mean, like pass rusher. Somebody might take him. Probably will take him in the middle of the first round. Isaiah Foskey at 7, Notre Dame pass rusher. I'm a big fan of. Kind of a balanced guy across the board. Kind of has everything to his game. Size, power, athletic. He's an athlete. Yeah, the length. He's got really good production. He broke the Notre Dame record for sacks, career sacks, held by Justin Tuck. Pretty good. Not just, good at getting after quarterback, but was pretty good stopping the run as well. So he's just good across the board. It's like, when you look at it that way, it's like, yeah, how is this guy not being talked about as a first-round guy more? And he very well could go the first round, but he is lacking a variety of moves. Just kind of tries to win with his power and length, speed. But yeah, again, if you coach him up, add some more moves to his game, he can be, he's already really, really productive. He can be scary good. Plays pretty tall. And he showed that he can play standing up and hand the dirt. But I think you need to get him more of on the line, rather than standing up, and that can help him kind of stay low a little better, and he kind of just gives you the feel of like a 4-3 end. Doesn't have like really any bend on the outside, like the flexibility is not really there. So that's probably, people are teams really looking for that. You want that flexibility on the outside. So Maybe that's what the knock is mainly. Nolan Smith I have at 8. Maybe another surprise, just not as high on him as everyone else. And we kind of talked about him in this range before the combine. And then the combine hit, and then everyone, got really hyped, including myself, because, freaky dude. Freaky elite athlete, obviously. And you want to work with a guy like that. And then you see like the flashes, and the big moments as well. But the more I watched, the less impressed I was there. But he is an elite athlete. I'm a big get off guy. He's got the great get off. He can stop the run. He's really thin. Really, really light. And that's gonna be a problem. But he plays bigger than his size against the run. So that's good. Really instinctive versus the run. He can drop back and cover as well, so that was impressive. Georgia had him sitting and reading a ton, more than anybody in this class, dropping back in coverage. So that kind of took away from his pass rush snaps, which kind of takes away from his production. So that's why the sack numbers are low. So I'm not really anybody that's low on him. It's probably because he had lower sack numbers. It's not stats isn't it for me. There's a legitimate excuse on why he didn't have more production. Well, that's not 100% the excuse, but the reason. But he is undersized, and he kind of plays like it sometimes, especially at rushing the passer. Not so much stopping the run, but rushing the passer. He tries to beat the guy, the tackle with his get off and his speed, mainly his speed. But if the tackle's got him, he's got him. There's really not much he can do. He really can get thrown around a little bit. So that kind of showed up a little bit. And then had that 2022 injury, which, if you're a little undersized, you have that injury, it kind of goes together. You do worry about the durability long term. So I just wasn't super thrilled with this tape. When he won, it was stopping the run. And then when he won against the pass, it was because how speedy he was, off the line, which is great. It's just that's kind of the way he wins right now. And the NFL tackles are obviously going to be much better. Derek Hall, and this is kind of where why people are saying the edge rush group is so good. Some people think it's like a crazy good at the top. I don't know if it is, because I'm kind of, for me, I'm kind of taking Van Ness out of that conversation, Nolan Smith out of that conversation. So that's probably why there's a difference between my thoughts at the top and other people's thoughts at the top. But there's some really good guys down here. Like, these guys are all pretty even and great. Derek Hall has that elite length, very solid athlete. And I love to get off, explosive off the ball. Pretty productive getting after the quarterback as well. Explosive, beating the tackle. Just explosive athlete all the way around. Like a 4'5" guy with elite length. It's just in production. It's something you like. It's definitely something you like. He really does struggle to shed blocks, kind of in the conversation, the category with B.J. Aguilar. That's like the big negative. Like, once, mainly in the run game, but once the tackle's got him, it's really tough. Very tough for, Derek Hall to get off. And is lacking the bend. You think a very good athlete. You wish there was a little bit more flexibility on the outside. But yeah, I think he's going to be a good 3-4 rusher. He's got that high motor. He's already productive. He's got that length. He's got that explosiveness off the ball. I think a 3-4 team's going to get him. He can be productive right away. Felix Anudike-Uzomah from Kansas State, very solid as well. I mean, he can sneak in the end of the first round as well. It's a possibility. Physical and athletic, the combination of both is great. He's got good bend. The 3-cone drill was very impressive as well. Plenty of moves, winning with power, winning on the inside and the outside. In kind of multiple different ways. Weird, because he mainly has short stride, like he takes short, choppy steps. But there was a sack he got against Texas Tech that I remember where he showed it was a really good rush using his hands and the strides. And it was probably my favorite sack of his. But, yeah, where was more of that? Where was more of that? And he kind of did disappear against a better comp. Like, Bama was non-existent. Tyler Steen locked him down, which some people like Tyler Steen. I did not like Tyler Steen's tape. So I would expect Uzomah to be the much better player in that battle. So that was tough. So I thought mainly he got production, consistent production. That's good. I thought it really showed up against the weaker of the teams that he played, which isn't a super big negative, but how will he be against the NFL tackles is going to be a tough challenge there. And there's more solid pass rushers than just this, obviously. And there's some guys that you out there may consider as an edge rusher. I actually are going to put the D lineman, because some of those guys I like as either like a 3-4 end or a 3 technique, which is, in a way, could be pass rushers as well, but are they edge guys? Pretty much everyone has Keon White off the edge, and tough for me to figure out what to do for him. I like him best as a 3-4 end. I wish a 3-4 team would take him, put him at end there, so I'll rank him with the D lineman. Eddie Boroway, I'm going to put with the defensive lineman. I like him at 3 technique. Carl Brooks, the same thing, more 3-4 end for him. Other Auburn guy, Colby Wooden, who can play both. He was a tough one to project. And some of these tweeners are very tough. I like him with the D lineman, maybe playing a 3-4 end. So some of these tweeners are tough. The tweeners, sometimes it's very tough. The success rate isn't really high, but maybe lately they're a little higher. But there's some good players in those in that conversation. So those are my edge. And I like another guy I like. There's a few guys I like after this. Yaya Diaby, who's a little versatile as well. I'm going to have him with the edge. I like his upside. I mean, he's got a crazy combination of athleticism and power, too. So he's an interesting prospect that I like. Very curious to see which team lands him and how they'll use him. I mean, he's going to be an edge guy, but a little more versatile than what people are giving him credit for. But that wraps it up for my edge rushers. Let me know your guys' thoughts. I know these are a little different than the consensus rankings, but at least I got Will Anderson at 1. To me, that was clear cut. So I don't know. Some people are getting a little crazy with him. But yeah, we got a playlist full of these rankings. More to come. Big board still got to come out before the draft. My guys, which I do every year, comes out before the draft. We'll have rankings for everybody in a spreadsheet right before the draft. More mock drafts. Constant talk on Twitter. If you're not following our Twitter, you're missing out. Link pinned in the comments for that. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.